Hey, Mike, it's Friday, not Thursday. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that. Yeah.
Happy Friday, everybody. We didn't do this yesterday, but now, hey, we're doing it on Friday, and Friday is an exciting day for you, Mike.
Yeah, Friday's my jam day. This is the one day that I let myself get together with actual three-dimensional people. And I'm really looking forward to it. 2 hours of banging on drums almost makes the week worth it.
Almost.
Yeah.
I do not understand the drum thing. Like, what do you love so much about it?
Um, well, a couple of things, right? If so, I'm a very left-brained person. I did lots of math and science and stuff like that, and that's just kind of how I'm wired. Well, it turns out music and math are driven by the same side of your brain. And if that's true, and you don't want to really jump into music theory and sight reading and stuff like that, you play drums, right? I mean, I'm the guy that hangs around with musicians. My job is to count to four and start over. So it's pretty easy, but it kind of, it's in line with the way I'm wired.
I think that was a jab at me because I can't count to four. Is that what you're saying? Because I
No,
can't do math? Is that what it is? Yeah.
no. It's just, it's a self-effacing drummer joke, is what it is.
Oh. So not everything's about me. Is that what you're saying?
No. It's drummer jokes are famous, right? What do you call a drummer without a girlfriend? Homeless.
Fair.
No.
Okay. Got
Okay.
it. Yep. That's good. That's good.
Okay.
That's good. Well, it's funny. I was just uh, looking at an old Jewish joke book, and I can't tell any of those jokes here. So we'll just move on and stick with your drummer joke there, right?
Okay.
All right, let's get on to the news. A week ago at this time, you and Fred Langston and I were talking here on LinkedIn Live about the Exchange server attack. We then did a panel discussion. We had more than 100 people there. As part of that, one of the things that folks asked for was an executive briefing. And I was just going to send out a marketing PDF thing. And you were like, no, let's make it a Word document so that people can use it and change it. And folks really appreciated that. If anyone's listening to this and wants it, shoot me an email and I'll send you over the Word document. But it's sort of an explainer for the CEO, CFO type of what's going on. And why you can't blame your ITIS department. The ransomware folks tried to get into that. Any new news on that?
There is new news on that, and let's get to that. What I want to try and do today, and maybe this is the only day we'll ever try this, is I just want to go through the same flow that I do on the blast, because there's a consistent way every day. I put things kind of in the same order. And so this one time, let's just try to do things in that order and go through, kind of this top stories of the week in different buckets.
Uh,
Are you down with that?
I don't know, man. But we'll see. What are the need to knows?
Well, so here's what I think are the need to knows. So to your point on the ongoing Exchange global compromise, there were 6 groups exploiting Exchange before there was a patch out. And there's 3 options to explain this. Number 1, Microsoft was hacked for the proof of concept code, and that got out. Number 2, China made the exploits public on purpose. Or 3, someone in the chain is leaking, which could implicate one or more of the antivirus vendors, right? Because Microsoft provides information to them prior to announcing the vulnerability in the patch so that they have detection mechanisms in place. So somewhere in there, this proof of concept code, these exploits jump the fence. And so that's a big mystery. And then, on your question as to whether or not, there's the ransomware knock-on attacks happening, it was reported that there are something like 7,000 web shells exposed to the internet, and they found them with Shodan or something. The company that ran this sweep says these are being used to drop ransomware. Okay, so on the other hand, I'm not seeing a victim list pile up. You don't need to announce to the world, that you've been hacked. But if your entire operation has been disrupted, it's kind of hard to hide that. So, Microsoft says that the Deer Cry ransomware gang or Deer Cry ransomware is being deployed, but again, I'm not seeing victims or for this crypto mining botnet that's part of this as well. So, it's, I think, the big story there is this mystery as to how this stuff jumped the fence and got into the hands of every criminal gang on Earth.
Yeah, that's bad. Bad.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is called the lemon duck, right?
Lemon duck, which is delicious, but will put a crypto miner on you.
We make fun of the names all the time, but any idea where the whole lemon duck one came from?
No, I don't. All these companies are kind of picking their own naming mechanisms, and there's no rhyme or reason about it. There's.
I mean, it's like trip through the grocery store, and we're gonna name them.
Yeah.
So I feel like the next attack is it's the yogurt strawberry,
or squishy insect. I don't know. There's no explanation. Interestingly, the first one of these groups was called APT1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just read this morning that this person, Till Cotman, was the one that was kind of behind this Verkada camera breach,
mm-hmm.
has just been indicted. This person is in Switzerland. And they called her and her operation something like APT 56,420. And I'm not making that up. It's a big number like that. So if this has gone incrementally and it's all the way to 56,000, and there's these other, squishy bear groups, man, there's a lot of these.
Well, I have to say, if I ever have to name one, and I'm just looking around the food in my house based on what my kids eat, watch out for the cheap ramen crypto mining attack.
It's not going to be the blueberry blintz attack.
No, we got a lot going on in my house. The 3-minute ramen making is all right. So since we're going to go with your idea of going through the blast here, mm-hmm. Health is next. What's going on in the health
sector,
is
man? Generally next. So Tenable study said 106 million records were disclosed out of the health sector in 2020. And basically all of the metrics are up, specifically around ransomware. The frequency, the size of the extortion demands, the health sector is still one of the prime targets here. And other studies, again, just along the lines of ransomware, other studies came out that said the average ransom paid was tripled in 2020 from something like $115,000 to more than $300,000 the following year. So, that situation continues to get worse. Also in health, the vaccine supply chain is said to be the most valuable cyber target in the world.
That's alarming.
Yeah, it is.
And I haven't seen it be disrupted. Have you?
Well, do we know? I do know that China has gone after two vaccine manufacturers in India really hard. And there's a whole bunch of consternation about how, they're competing with one another. They don't want to share information on what's happening. The Indian government is starting to tell them you have to. It is mandatory to share information about this. But it is happening everywhere. And the interesting thing about it is, that this is happening. The motivation is what is interesting. It's not to counterfeit the vaccines, it's to disrupt them, right? It's in the strategic interest of other countries for us to be sick and them to be well, I guess. So, that's it. I mean, it's really hard to think why someone would want to do that. And the only thing you can fall down on is this is in the strategic interest of a nation. And that's an awful bad strategic interest.
Yes, indeed. I guess it's Friday. I have money on my mind because paychecks. So finance. Let's do finance next.
Okay. Well, finance, and we'll group in other stuff like manufacturing and construction and, just kind of other sectors. But just really specifically around finance, wealthy investors and family offices, including IBDs, which are one of the independent broker dealers, are all being hit pretty hard. There is really well crafted and well researched fraud happening. So, if you're in one of those industries and you're handling other people's money, remember to always verify requests to redirect funds into new accounts, because this is the way they're doing it.
Hey,
And
by the way, we got a request yesterday for an account change with one of our customers. Do you know? Did that turn out to be real? It looked a little suspicious, but
that is real.
it turned out to be real. Yeah. So
I verified it.
Yeah.
I got a hold of somebody I know over at that particular organization. They said, yeah, this is the real deal.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was like, wow, this is a great fish. It might be real.
We are so paranoid. We are so paranoid.
Sorry, keep going, Mike.
Okay. All right. What else did I say? Manufacturing. Attacks against the manufacturing sector. We talked about this before. Had tripled in 2020. So this continues to grow and is now. This is past the hey, we better watch this to this is now uh-oh. So if you're in manufacturing, start assessing the security of your organization, especially if you're using robotic manufacturing, things like that can really get snarled. And just make the losses pile up per minute. 2020 was also a record-breaking year in school hacks, and the Buffalo school district, I think, is just now coming back. They got whacked really hard, and I think they're still barely operable. And the FBI put out a bulletin that identifies a particular ransomware variant. It's PYSA, and I don't know if you're supposed to pronounce that or not, but it's targeting education institutions, 12 states, and the United Kingdom, specifically targeting higher education, K-12, and seminaries. Wow.
Since we're naming variants and since it is attacking schools, I think we should call it the peanut butter and jelly.
So we could think
of much better if going to the grocery store.
Lance will come up with a really great acronym for PYSA. You believe it. he's good at it.
All right. Hey, SolarWinds. Anything going on in SolarWinds? We talked about it for a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, all the news is, wow, the government's, hey, it's going to take us years to figure out how deep this has gone. And there's all these knock-on effects going. But the big news around SolarWinds is a judge approved the merger of 3 separate class action lawsuits filed against SolarWinds over that 2020 hack. And in my opinion, we're going to hear accusations pretty soon of executive negligence and deceptive trade practices and things like that. Because right now shareholders are documenting their losses, and that is not going to end well for the executives in the company. Yeah, I have always said, if you want to get an executive's attention, don't talk about buffer overflow, talk about gross negligence.
That'll do it.
Here it comes.
Do it. Speaking of the government, military, what's going on there?
Probably the biggest thing this week is, and I know you read this, the declassified summary of the report on the 2020 election that says Russia waged an information influence campaign. China sat this one out, and there was no hacking to change vote counts, which, blows up in a bunch of other narratives. But this is the intelligence community saying this is the way it went down. Biden administration is also thinking through a new approach for stopping these things. And front and center of that approach has to be the fact that these attacks are launched from domestic address space and Amazon Web Services.
Makes it a lot harder to,
yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? Block AWS? Everything's going to fall over. So, these companies are probably going to get pulled into some kind of early warning system. Clearly we have to trust them. So the fix has to occur earlier in the chain, right? When bad guys register a domain or they contract, virtual systems to use for command and control or something like that. So, the government's going to be talking to those big service providers saying, hey, you're going to have to give us information.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was really interesting. I don't know if folks didn't read the articles about it, but it's really interesting why China sat it out and why. Anyway, you just go read about it. We don't have time here because we could talk about that for 3 or 4 hours. But speaking of nation state, I know, China hasn't sat everything out.
No. They just got blamed for an attack on the Australian government, and Russia is being blamed for hacking Finland's parliament. And again, countries say, well, that's espionage. Everybody does it. Until it turns into, something that looks like it's being monetized. And then you have to ask yourself, how did it get from one to the other? FBI also warned this week that, and this is kind of disturbing, Russia and China both are using deepfake content to spread misinformation, right? Remember, deepfakes are the really realistic, simulated photographs or videos that are really hard to tell that they are fake, and they can put your face on somebody else doing something really bad. And that was predicted, but it's apparently started in earnest now.
I mean, how do we know this is really you?
We don't. Yeah.
Maybe just because bad drummer jokes, but maybe the AI would guess that you would tell bad drummer jokes.
Maybe, or maybe you can tell that.
And by the way, when I say bad drummer jokes, I don't mean that the joke is bad.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's hysterical. It's, you know what? Maybe I will drum us out then. Okay. All right. Back on track. Back on track.
Go ahead. Yep.
All right. There are more and more stories showing up about how we're going to fight this cyber war. And there's lots of warnings about how exacting a cost that is excessive will lead to kinetic escalation. Okay. And on that point, just yesterday, the Brits said this: we reserve the right to use nuclear weapons. Okay. And what they're talking about is Trident missiles in the face of weapons of mass destruction, including emerging technologies that could have a comparable impact to chemical or biological weapons. Wow. And so, they're thinking, if you knock down our infrastructure and people die, we're going to nuke you. So that's a little bit of an escalation, maybe just rhetorically, but yeah.
Cold War becomes cyber war with Cold War. Now, anyway,
I don't know.
Not good.
It's heating up, man.
Privacy. All right.
Business ends up being collateral damage too.
Hey, so make me feel better. There was some privacy news this week that that felt like, hey, the privacy folks are starting to make a difference.
They are. There's also some privacy stories that will scare you, right? Damn
it, Mike. No, ones that make me feel better. Go.
No, look, we have to be objective here. There's a new regulation approved under the California Consumer Privacy Act. This happened on Monday that will prohibit the use of so-called dark patterns. Okay. Those are tricks that are used by websites or apps that frustrate or fool or confuse users into doing things they wouldn't normally do. So this is an interesting, new regulation. How you define a tactic that bamboozles users, I think, is going to be kind of difficult. But everybody's trying to get their arms around this privacy stuff, and there's another step in what looks like the right direction. And then there's another story about somebody who contracted a service. It's called Sakari, and what it allows you to do is redirect text messages intended for someone else. And this is part of the advertising ecosystem. So you pay, and I'm not making this up, $16 and fill out an LOA, a letter of authorization, that says you're okay, you're authorized to receive these texts for someone else, right? You attest to that and they believe you. What it allows you to do is take over accounts, because you can request a password reset, and then the reset code comes to your phone because you've intercepted someone else's text message. And that person has no idea. Their phone still works. They still have signal. They can still send text messages out. And all this costs $16. So, I'm kind of happy these privacy laws are starting to show, it's going to get messy, but the other one is all the data collected by commercial vehicles, not connected vehicles. Some of them are commercial or some not, is being aggregated and sold commercially. And this includes location data. So the U.S. military is looking at these services and possibly contracting them as a way to lower the cost of targeting bad guys, finding people that they're trying to follow around the world, things like that. Apparently they can monitor locations, something like 15 billion vehicles, and they want to use this like to target a drone strike or something. So the intersection of capitalism and technology might be good for the military, but it's bad for privacy. So, like I said, I don't care if we do end up now with 50 state privacy statutes that are hard on companies. Companies brought this on themselves.
Yeah. All right. Well, that didn't make me feel a ton better, although a little. It was better than, nation state activity. All right. At the end of all of these, we do a kicker. Kicker's that story at the end of the newscast that makes you feel better. Mike, make us feel better.
Okay, this is probably the most heartwarming story of the week. So the kicker has to be the story of the Pennsylvania mother that created deepfake photos and video of her daughter's cheerleading rivals, of them drinking and smoking, and then gave them to the coaches and parents and stuff like that to try and get them kicked off the team. Of course she was caught. Of course she's been charged. And of course, this is a small taste of what's coming. That was amateurish and funny. But, in the larger context, this is something we got to watch out for. How happy did that make you, Jake?
That was pretty good. It was better than the bad drummer joke.
Okay.
Joke about you bet. Yeah. Anyway. All right, everybody. Well, have an awesome Friday. Have an awesome weekend. We'll be back next Thursday. We do this live. Although, looking at the metrics, most of you don't watch this live anyway. So, hey, there you go. And if you want that executive briefing, shoot me an email at jake@ci.security, and I will get it over to you, or friend me, or whatever it is you do on LinkedIn. Don't friend Mike. He's mean. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have an awesome day.
All right. Bye.